Sarah's hands trembled as she stared at the police sirens blaring outside her window. This couldn't be happening. Her beloved retired Army K9, Diesel, was the gentlest, most obedient dog she knew. But after that nosy neighbor, Karen, called 911, claiming he was vicious, her world was about to come crashing down. Sarah had to act fast to clear Diesel's name before it was too late. Sarah burst out the front door, heart pounding, as the police officers approached with their hands on their holsters. "Wait, please. There's been a terrible misunderstanding," she pleaded. One of the officers, a gruff-looking man in his 50s, held up a hand. "Ma'am, we received a call about a dangerous dog in the neighborhood. We need to investigate." Diesel, a massive black Labrador, sat obediently by Sarah's side, tail wagging. "Officer, Diesel is a retired military working dog. He's the most well-trained, gentle animal you'll ever meet." The other officer, a younger woman, eyed Diesel skeptically. "That may be, but we have to follow protocol. For everyone's safety, we need to take the dog into custody." Sarah's eyes widened in panic. "No, you can't do that. Diesel has been my best friend and constant companion ever since he came home from Afghanistan. He's saved my life more times than I can count." Tears welled up in her eyes as she gently placed a hand on Diesel's head. The gruff officer's expression softened slightly. "Look, I understand this is difficult, but we have to take the dog in. There have been complaints, and we can't ignore that." Suddenly, a shrill voice pierced the air. "There's the beast. I told you he was dangerous." Karen, Sarah's nosy neighbor, stormed over, waving her arms. Sarah whirled around, fury blazing in her eyes. "You! This is all your fault, Karen. Diesel is a highly trained military dog, not some vicious animal. He would never hurt a fly." Karen sneered. "Well, he certainly looked ready to attack me when I was taking out my trash earlier. I had no choice but to call the police." Sarah clenched her fists, struggling to keep her composure. "That's a lie, and you know it. Diesel was simply excited to greet you, like he does with all our neighbors. But you, with your twisted little mind, saw something sinister where there was nothing." The younger officer stepped forward, holding up a hand. "Ma'am, we need to take the dog in for evaluation. If there's been a misunderstanding, we can sort it out at the station." Sarah's heart sank as Diesel was led away, his loyal eyes filled with confusion and distress. She glared at Karen, her voice trembling with anger. "This isn't over, Karen. You have no idea who you're messing with." Sarah paced back and forth in the police station's waiting area, her mind racing. How could this be happening? Diesel was the most well-behaved, affectionate dog she knew. And Karen, that insufferable woman, had the nerve to call the cops on him. Finally, the gruff-looking officer from earlier approached. "Ma'am, we've evaluated your dog, and he seems to be in good health and temperament. No signs of aggression whatsoever." Sarah let out a shaky breath. "Thank goodness. So can I take him home now?" The officer cleared his throat, a faint trace of sympathy in his eyes. "Well, that's the thing. Since there were multiple complaints from your neighbor, we need to hold Diesel until we can sort this out." "What? No, you can't do that," Sarah cried, her heart sinking. "Diesel is a retired military working dog. He has PTSD and separation anxiety. Being confined here will only traumatize him further." The officer raised a hand. "I understand your concern, ma'am, but we have to follow protocol. We'll need to contact the military to verify his service record and training before we can release him." Sarah felt her knees going weak. But that could take days, even weeks. "Diesel needs to be with me. He's my emotional support, my lifeline. Please, you have to let him go." The officer sighed. "I'm sorry, but my hands are tied. We'll do our best to expedite the process, but Diesel will have to stay here in the meantime." Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she watched the officers lead Diesel away, the loyal dog whimpering in distress. How could this be happening? She had to find a way to get him back, no matter what. Clenching her fists, Sarah turned to face the smug-looking Karen, who had been observing the whole scene. "This isn't over, you vile woman. I swear, I will make you pay for this." Karen merely laughed, unfazed by Sarah's anger. "Good luck with that, dear. I'm a respected member of the community, and the police are on my side. You're just a troubled veteran with a dangerous dog. No one's going to believe you." Sarah's blood boiled as she watched Karen saunter away, her taunting laughter echoing in the hall. But she wasn't about to give up. Diesel was her world, her everything. She would move heaven and earth to get him back, even if it meant taking down that wretched Karen once and for all. Sarah paced the living room, her mind racing with ways to get Diesel back. She couldn't bear the thought of him being confined in that cold, sterile police station, away from the comfort of their home. Every minute that ticked by felt like an eternity. Suddenly, an idea struck her. Grabbing her phone, she quickly scrolled through her contacts and found the number she was looking for. Her old commanding officer, Colonel Michael Davis. As the phone rang, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. Come on, please pick up," she muttered under her breath. After a few agonizing seconds, a gruff voice answered. "Colonel Davis speaking." "Colonel, it's Sarah. I need your help, desperately," she blurted out, her voice laced with urgency. "Sarah? What's wrong?" the colonel asked, his tone immediately shifting to one of concern. Sarah quickly explained the situation, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. "Diesel, my retired military working dog, has been taken into custody by the police. They won't release him because of some bogus complaints from my neighbor. You have to help me, sir. Diesel is my lifeline, and I can't bear the thought of him being locked up. Please, you have to do something." There was a brief pause, and Sarah could almost hear the gears turning in the colonel's mind. "All right, Sarah, calm down. I'll make some calls and see what I can do. Where are you now?" "At home. The police took Diesel to the station downtown," Sarah replied, her voice shaking with relief. "Okay, stay put. I'll be in touch as soon as I can," the colonel said decisively. "We're going to get Diesel back, you have my word." As Sarah ended the call, a glimmer of hope flickered in her chest. If anyone could pull this off, it was Colonel Davis. He had been Diesel's handler during their tours in Afghanistan, and the two of them shared an unbreakable bond. Pacing the room, Sarah tried to calm her nerves. She knew the colonel would move heaven and earth to help her, but the waiting was agonizing. Every second that ticked by felt like an eternity, and she couldn't shake the image of Diesel, confused and afraid, locked up in that police station. Just then, a loud knock at the door startled her. Heart racing, she peered through the peephole and was shocked to see Karen standing on her doorstep, a smug grin plastered across her face. Steeling herself, Sarah opened the door, her eyes narrowed with contempt. "What do you want, Karen?" she spat. Karen's smile only widened. "Oh, I just thought I'd come by and check on you, dear. Must be simply awful, having your precious dog locked up like that. Such a shame." Sarah clenched her fists, her knuckles turning white. "You have some nerve showing your face here after what you've done. Diesel is a war hero, and you betrayed him. I'll never forgive you for this." Karen let out a theatrical sigh. "Oh, come now, Sarah. Don't be so dramatic. I was simply looking out for the safety of our community. You know how those military dogs can be, all violent and unpredictable." Sarah's blood boiled with rage. "Diesel is the gentlest, most well-trained animal you'll ever meet. You're the one who's violent and unpredictable, Karen. And I swear, if anything happens to him, I'll make you pay." Karen's eyes narrowed, and for a brief moment, Sarah saw a flicker of uncertainty in her expression. "Well, we'll just have to see about that, won't we?" she snapped, before turning on her heel and striding away. Sarah watched her go, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that Karen was up to something, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The minutes ticked by like hours as Sarah waited anxiously for the colonel's call. She paced the living room, her mind racing with the whirlwind of emotions: fear, anger, desperation. The thought of Diesel, her beloved companion, trapped and alone in that police station was agonizing. Just when Sarah was about to jump out of her skin, her phone finally rang. Snatching it up, she answered breathlessly, "Colonel, did you find a way to get Diesel back?" "I did, Sarah." The colonel's deep voice rumbled through the receiver. "I pulled a few strings and got in touch with the police chief. Diesel's military service records have been verified, and he'll be released to you as soon as possible." Tears of relief flooded Sarah's eyes. "Oh, thank goodness. I was so worried. When can I go get him?" "I'm on my way to the station right now," the colonel replied. "I'll make sure Diesel is safely returned to you. Just stay put, and I'll be there as soon as I can." Sarah let out a shaky breath. "I can't thank you enough, sir. You have no idea what this means to me." "I know, Sarah," the colonel said gently. "Diesel is family. We take care of our own." As Sarah waited, her mind swirled with a mix of gratitude and fury. She owed the colonel and the entire military everything for bringing Diesel home safely. But the thought of that vindictive neighbor, Karen, still boiled her blood. Just then, a knock at the door jolted her out of her thoughts. Peering through the peephole, she was surprised to see the two police officers from earlier standing on her doorstep, Diesel happily by their side. Flinging the door open, Sarah rushed forward and wrapped her arms around Diesel's neck, burying her face in his soft fur. "Oh, Diesel, I'm so sorry you had to go through that," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. Diesel let out a contented woof, nuzzling Sarah affectionately. The younger officer cleared her throat, a sympathetic smile on her face. "Ma'am, we're very sorry for the inconvenience. Your dog's military service has been verified, and he's cleared to go home with you." Sarah looked up, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, officer. And thank you for your understanding." The gruff-looking officer nodded, his expression softening. "We know you've been through a lot, ma'am. Just try to keep your dog under control from now on, all right?" Sarah nodded, her grip tightening on Diesel's collar. "I will, I promise. Thank you both." As the officers turned to leave, Sarah felt a surge of determination. She wasn't about to let Karen get away with this. Diesel was home, safe and sound, but the battle had only just begun. With Diesel finally back home, Sarah's relief was quickly overshadowed by a burning sense of anger. How dare Karen call the police on her loyal, well-trained companion? The nerve of that woman, putting Diesel through such trauma and distress. Sarah knew she couldn't let this slide. Karen needed to be held accountable for her actions, and she was determined to make sure that happened. As Diesel nuzzled against her, sensing her agitation, Sarah made a decision. Grabbing her phone, she scrolled through her contacts and found the number for the local news station. Taking a deep breath, she dialed the number and waited. After a few rings, a voice answered, "WKPX News, how can I help you?" "Hi, my name is Sarah, and I have a story I think you'd be interested in," she began, her voice steady and resolute. "My neighbor, Karen, called the police and falsely accused my retired military working dog, Diesel, of being dangerous. She got him taken into custody, but it turns out he's a decorated K-9 veteran with an impeccable record." There was a pause on the other end of the line, followed by the sound of rapid typing. "Wow, that's quite a story. Do you have any evidence or documentation to back this up?" "Absolutely," Sarah replied, her eyes narrowing. "I have Diesel's military service records, as well as witness statements from the police officers who interacted with him. And I can connect you with my former commanding officer, Colonel Michael Davis, who can vouch for Diesel's character and training." "This sounds like a compelling story," the reporter said, her tone intrigued. I'd love to come out and interview you and get the full details. Would you be available for a sit-down interview later today? Yes, definitely, Sarah said, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her. I'll be here, and I'll make sure the colonel is available as well. This needs to be exposed for what it is, a malicious act by a vindictive neighbor. Excellent, the reporter replied. I'll have a crew out to your place within the hour. We'll get to the bottom of this and make sure your story is heard. As Sarah ended the call, she felt a sense of empowerment. She wasn't going to let Karen get away with this. Diesel was a hero, and he deserved to be treated with the respect and dignity he had earned. Turning to Diesel, Sarah gently scratched behind his ears. Don't worry, boy. We're going to make things right. That nasty woman is going to learn the hard way not to mess with us. Diesel let out a soft woof, his tail wagging slightly. Sarah knew that with Diesel by her side and the full might of the military behind her, she was a force to be reckoned with. Karen had no idea what was about to hit her. True to her word, the news crew arrived at Sarah's doorstep within the hour, their cameras and microphones at the ready. Sarah ushered them inside, Diesel at her side, his tail wagging excitedly at the new visitors. The lead reporter, a seasoned veteran named Emily, wasted no time in getting down to business. All right, Sarah, let's start from the beginning. Tell me exactly what happened with your neighbor, Karen, and how she ended up calling the police on your dog, Diesel. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes hardening with determination. It all started a few days ago. I was in the backyard with Diesel, just playing fetch like we do every day. Suddenly, I heard a commotion coming from the street. It was Karen, shrieking at the top of her lungs that Diesel was a vicious animal, and that she was going to call the cops. Emily's brows furrowed in confusion. Did she provide any explanation for why she thought Diesel was dangerous? Sarah shook her head, her lips pressed into a thin line. Not a valid one, no. She claimed Diesel looked ready to attack her when she was taking out her trash. But Diesel is the gentlest, most well-trained dog you'll ever meet. He was just excited to greet her, like he does with all our neighbors. The colonel, who had joined them for the interview, spoke up. Diesel is a highly decorated military working dog with years of specialized training and combat experience. He's saved countless lives, both on the battlefield and here at home. There's no way he would ever behave aggressively without provocation. Emily nodded, her eyes widening with understanding. So, what happened after Karen called the police? They showed up within minutes, Sarah explained, her voice laced with frustration. Diesel was taken into custody, and I was told he'd have to stay at the station until they could verify his service record. I was absolutely devastated. Diesel is my emotional support, my constant companion. Being separated from him like that was agonizing. The colonel placed a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. That's when I stepped in. I pulled a few strings and got in touch with the police chief, vouching for Diesel's impeccable record and training. Within a few hours, he was released back into Sarah's care. Emily turned to the camera, her expression grave. So, let me get this straight. Your neighbor, Karen, falsely accused Diesel of being a dangerous dog, even though he's a highly trained and decorated military K-9 veteran. And she did this despite knowing Diesel's background and service history. Sarah nodded, her eyes narrowing. That's exactly right. Karen is a spiteful, manipulative woman who has had it out for me ever since I moved into the neighborhood. I believe she saw an opportunity to get back at me by targeting Diesel, and she didn't care about the consequences. This is an outrageous abuse of the 911 system, the colonel interjected, his voice stern. Diesel is a hero, and he deserves to be treated with the respect and dignity he's earned. What Karen did is not only a gross injustice, but it's also a slap in the face to all the brave men and women who have served our country. Emily turned to the camera, her expression grave. There you have it, folks. A heartbreaking story of a decorated military working dog being falsely accused and detained, all because of vindictive neighbor's personal vendetta. Stay tuned as we continue to investigate this case and bring you the latest updates. As the cameras stopped rolling, Sarah let out a shaky breath, Diesel nuzzling against her side. She knew that the battle was far from over, but with the power of the media and the unwavering support of the military behind her, she was more determined than ever to make Karen pay for what she had done. The news segment had the desired effect, sending shockwaves through the community. Within hours, Sarah's story had gone viral, sparking outrage and condemnation for Karen's actions. Sarah watched with a mixture of satisfaction and trepidation as the comments and shares on the news station's social media pages continued to pour in. Many were expressing their support for Diesel and calling for justice, while others were lambasting Karen as a heartless, vindictive individual. Just as Sarah was starting to feel a glimmer of hope, her phone began to ring. Seeing Karen's name on the caller ID, she took a deep breath and answered, her voice dripping with disdain. "What do you want, Karen?" Karen's voice was trembling with barely contained rage. "How dare you go to the media with this? You're trying to ruin my life, you ungrateful little—" "Ungrateful?" Sarah interrupted, her tone icy. "You're the one who falsely accused my dog of being dangerous, Karen. You had him taken into custody, traumatizing him and putting me through hell. And for what? Because you're a jealous, spiteful woman who can't stand the fact that I have a well-trained, loving companion." Karen's voice rose to a shrill pitch. "That dog is a menace, and everyone needs to know it. I was just trying to protect the neighborhood." Sarah let out a humorless laugh. "Protect the neighborhood? Don't make me laugh, Karen. Diesel is a highly decorated military working dog. He's saved countless lives, including mine. He's more of a hero than you'll ever be." "That's a lie," Karen shrieked. "You're just making up stories to turn everyone against me." "Well, it's not going to work. I have powerful friends, and they're going to make sure you and that dog of yours pay for this." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine at the venom in Karen's voice. "Is that a threat, Karen? Because if it is, I can assure you that you're not the only one with powerful connections. The entire military is behind Diesel, and they don't take kindly to people who mess with their own." There was a moment of silence, and Sarah could almost hear the gears turning in Karen's mind. "You won't get away with this, Sarah," Karen finally said, her voice low and menacing. "Mark my words, this isn't over." "Oh, it's far from over, Karen," Sarah replied, her voice dripping with confidence. "In fact, this is just the beginning. I hope you've enjoyed your cushy life in this neighborhood, because once I'm done with you, you're going to wish you'd never even heard the name Diesel." With that, Sarah ended the call, her hands trembling with a mix of fear and determination. She knew that Karen was a formidable foe, and that the battle ahead would be fierce. But with Diesel by her side and the full might of the military on her side, she was more than ready to take her down. In the days that followed, the media frenzy surrounding Sarah and Diesel's story only continued to grow. Outraged citizens flooded the news stations and local authorities with calls and messages, demanding that Karen be held accountable for her actions. Behind the scenes, Sarah and the colonel were working tirelessly to build their case. They gathered sworn statements from the police officers who had interacted with Diesel, as well as medical records and commendations that attested to his impeccable training and service record. Meanwhile, Karen was desperately scrambling to salvage her reputation. She reached out to her network of influential friends, hoping to use her connections to shut down the investigation and silence Sarah and Diesel's story. But the public outcry was simply too overwhelming, and her efforts were met with little success. As the pressure mounted, Karen's true colors began to show. She lashed out at her neighbors, accusing them of betraying her and siding with the dangerous dog and its unhinged owner. Her once pristine reputation was quickly unraveling, and she found herself the target of widespread ridicule and scorn. Finally, the day of the hearing arrived. Sarah, Diesel, and the colonel sat in the courtroom, their eyes fixed on the judge as he reviewed the evidence presented by both sides. Karen, her usually immaculate appearance now disheveled, fidgeted nervously in her seat, her once confident demeanor crumbling. When the judge's gavel struck, the verdict was clear. Karen was found guilty of filing a false police report and misusing the emergency services. She was ordered to pay a hefty fine and perform community service, her actions condemned as a flagrant abuse of her position in the community. As Karen was escorted out of the courtroom, her face a mask of humiliation and defeat, Sarah felt a surge of triumphant relief. Diesel, sensing her joy, let out a proud bark, his tail wagging furiously. "Well done, Diesel," Sarah whispered, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "You're the real hero here, and we're going to make sure the whole world knows it." With the ordeal finally behind them, Sarah and Diesel emerged from the courthouse to a crowd of cheering supporters. The media swarmed around them, eager to capture the moment of justice and redemption. As the flashing cameras and microphones surrounded them, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. She and Diesel had weathered a storm, and their bond had only grown stronger. Together, they would continue to inspire others, proving that with unwavering loyalty and unbreakable spirit, even the mightiest of foes could be brought to their knees.